The Renaissance, which occurred between the 14th and 17th centuries, was one of the most transformative periods in European history. Originating in Italy and spreading across Europe, this movement was characterized by the rediscovery of classical Greek and Roman texts, which fostered new ways of thinking in fields such as art, philosophy, and science. During this same period, major European nations entered an era of maritime exploration, culminating in the Age of Discovery. This period was shaped not only by cultural revival, but also by political and economic circumstances. The end of the feudal system and the rise of centralized monarchies created intense competition among European powers, which sought new sources of wealth and prestige through the exploration and colonization of unknown territories. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 disrupted land-based trade routes to the east, intensifying the need for new maritime routes to Asia and motivating explorers to seek alternatives. In this context, the Renaissance, with its emphasis on humanism, curiosity, and innovation, created the ideal conditions for the great voyages of exploration. It was not just an artistic or intellectual movement, but a direct catalyst for the maritime expeditions that changed the world. This connection between the Renaissance and the Age of Discovery is at the core of our analysis, as it demonstrates how the innovative thinking of the time fueled the great journeys that expanded the boundaries of knowledge. The spirit of curiosity and innovation of the Renaissance was driven by humanism, a philosophical movement that placed human beings and their rational capabilities at the center of intellectual inquiry. Humanism rejected the rigid and dogmatic thinking that had dominated during the Middle Ages, instead embracing the exploration of knowledge and human experience. This movement was fundamental in shaping a new mentality, a boundless curiosity that manifested itself in all areas of knowledge. Intellectuals like Petrarch and Erasmus of Rotterdam were strong advocates of education and critical thinking. Petrarch, for example, believed that studying classical works was essential for understanding the present and improving the future. He was one of the first to promote the idea that ancient knowledge could be used to innovate, not merely revered. Erasmus, in turn, helped spread humanist principles throughout Europe, encouraging the study of reason and human morality. This pursuit of knowledge extended beyond intellectual and philosophical boundaries. With advancements in navigation techniques, there was a growing desire to explore the physical world. The curiosity fostered by humanists encouraged Europeans to look beyond their own territories and imagine a larger, more expansive world. Figures like Leonardo da Vinci embodied this spirit of innovation. Not only did da Vinci make advances in art, but he was also deeply interested in geography, engineering, and anatomy. He dreamed of machines that could fly and created maps with an accuracy uncommon for the time. Beyond da Vinci, other figures like Nicholas Copernicus were also influenced by this spirit. In his revolutionary work, Copernicus proposed that the sun, not the earth, was the center of the universe. This new vision challenged the traditional views of the church and encouraged a re-evaluation of what was considered unquestionable truth. Similarly, European navigators were ready to challenge traditional geography and seek new routes to expand trade and knowledge. Lastly, it is important to mention the role of economic factors. The search for new trade routes, particularly after the land routes were cut off following the fall of Constantinople, was one of the primary drivers of maritime exploration. The desire to expand trade in spices, gold, and other valuable goods encouraged the search for unknown lands and new opportunities. Technological and scientific advancements of the Renaissance. During the Renaissance, scientific and technological advancements were crucial in making the great voyages possible. These advances included navigation instruments that allowed sailors to orient themselves in open seas, far from coasts and without visual references. The astrolabe, one of the most important instruments of the time, enabled navigators to measure the height of stars relative to the horizon, helping them calculate latitude, which was essential for safer and more precise voyages. Another critical advancement was the compass, which had been used by the Chinese but was refined and popularized in Europe during the Renaissance. The compass allowed sailors to maintain the correct direction even in unknown seas and under adverse weather conditions, such as fog or starless nights. The combination of these instruments with more detailed and accurate maps, based on the works of Ptolemy and improved by Renaissance cartographers, gave sailors newfound confidence in them. Erguernes. The caravels also deserve special mention. Developed by the Portuguese, these ships were faster and more agile than previous vessels, capable of sailing against the wind thanks to their triangular, lateen sails and square sails that captured more wind in the open ocean. These innovations allowed Europeans to explore the Atlantic and Indian Oceans more efficiently. Navigators such as Bartolomé Dias, who rounded the Cape of Good Hope, and Vasco da Gama, who reached India, used caravels to expand the horizons of exploration. Another technological advancement that facilitated the age of discovery was Johannes Gutenberg's invention of the movable-type printing press in the mid-15th century. The printing press allowed for the mass reproduction of books and maps, making knowledge accessible to a larger number of people. This invention revolutionized not only the dissemination of information, but also how Europeans learned and exchanged knowledge. Books on navigation, astronomy, and geography circulated rapidly, contributing to the improvement of exploration techniques. By the end of this period, Europeans were equipped not only with the desire to discover new lands, but also with the tools necessary to do so. Technological innovations, the spread of knowledge, and economic motivations were the foundations for the success of the maritime expeditions that altered the course of world history. The expansion of geographical knowledge, the Renaissance, was also a period of intense expansion in geographical knowledge. Explorers such as Christopher Columbus, financed by European crowns, sought new routes to the east. When Columbus set sail in 1492, he believed he was heading toward the Indies, but instead discovered a new world, the Americas. This discovery not only expanded Europe's understanding of the globe, but also paved the way for the colonization and exploration of these new territories. In addition to Columbus, other explorers played important roles in expanding geographical knowledge. Amerigo Vespucci, whose detailed accounts of his voyages to the New World helped Europeans understand that the lands discovered by Columbus were not part of Asia, but a new continent, was instrumental in this process. As a result of his accounts, the continent was named America in his honor. Another notable explorer was Ferdinand Magellan, whose expedition, 1519 to 1522, completed the first circumnavigation of the globe, definitively proving that the Earth was round and larger than previously imagined. His voyages, financed by Spain, demonstrated that the world was interconnected and that it was possible to chart maritime routes around the entire globe. The impact of these discoveries extended beyond geography. Europe's economy was also transformed, with the emergence of new trade routes connecting continents. The trade of spices, gold, and other resources from the Americas, Africa, and Asia began flowing into Europe, shifting the dynamics of power and wealth. At the same time, diseases brought by Europeans devastated indigenous populations, while the slave trade grew, creating networks of human trafficking that would last for centuries. This interconnection of cultures, ideas, and products became known as the Columbian Exchange, a phenomenon that drastically altered the economies and societies of the continents involved. Plants like corn, potatoes, and cocoa, previously unknown in Europe, became staples in European diets, while horses and other European innovations were introduced to the Americas. Thus, geographical discoveries also resulted in a deep cultural exchange that transformed the world in countless ways. Cultural exchange and emerging globalization, the Renaissance, by encouraging exploration and discovery, also sparked a period of intense cultural exchange. As Europeans explored new territories, they not only extracted resources but also absorbed knowledge and traditions from these lands. Indigenous cultures in the Americas, for example, influenced Europe with their agricultural techniques and knowledge of medicinal plants. At the same time, the imposition of European culture on indigenous populations was often violent and destructive. Christian missionaries, particularly the Jesuits, accompanied expeditions and sought to convert indigenous peoples to Christianity. This religious expansion led to the acculturation of many of these societies, profoundly transforming their traditions and beliefs. Christianity spread across the globe, but often at the expense of local cultures and religions. Another impact of cultural exchange was felt in European science and the arts. Explorers brought back new knowledge of astronomy, biology, and geography, which influenced Renaissance scientific thought. Artists began to incorporate new materials and styles inspired by encounters with other cultures. However, the emerging globalization also had a dark side. The beginning of the transatlantic slave trade, which resulted in the forced trafficking of millions of Africans to the Americas. This exchange of ideas and cultures was one of the first steps toward globalization, as the world became increasingly interconnected. The Renaissance not only influenced Europe, but was also shaped by the cultures Europeans encountered during their explorations. This cultural exchange, though marked by power imbalances, was essential to the development of a globalized world. The Renaissance and the Age of Discovery are deeply and intricately intertwined. The Renaissance, with its emphasis on humanism, innovation, and curiosity, created the ideal conditions for the great maritime explorations. Geographical discoveries, in turn, fed the Renaissance with new knowledge and challenges, expanding the boundaries of European thought. Together, these two eras paved the way for the modern world. The Renaissance revolutionized science, art, and philosophy, while the Age of Discovery ushered in globalization and the expansion of international trade. However, they also brought challenges and destruction, such as the devastation of indigenous cultures and the rise of the slave trade, which left deep scars on world history. The legacy of these eras endures. The drive for innovation, discovery, and exploration that characterized the Renaissance and the Age of Discovery continues to shape human thought and actions to this day, from scientific advancements to the interconnected global landscape that defines the modern world.